April 12, 2008, on a humid Chicago evening, a federal prosecutor walked into the governor's mansion with a warrant that would soon make headlines across the nation. A taped conversation in which Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich was heard bargaining to sell the United States Senate seat vacated by President-elect Barack Obama. The very notion that a public office could be treated like a commodity ignited a firestorm, and within weeks the former governor's political empire began to crumble. Rod Blagojevich, the first Democratic governor of Illinois elected in the modern era to win a third term, rose from a working-class Chicago neighborhood to the state's highest office. A charismatic lawyer and seasoned legislator, he built his reputation on bold promises, paying off the state's pension debt, expanding health care, and championing education reforms. Yet beneath the polished veneer lay a political machine steeped in patronage, a network of donors, lobbyists, and party operatives accustomed to wielding influence behind closed doors. The crucial moment came in January 2009, when then-Senator Barack Obama announced his candidacy for the presidency. Illinois law required the governor to appoint a replacement to fill the remainder of Obama's term. Blagojevich, suddenly holding the keys to a coveted Senate seat, allegedly saw an opportunity to leverage that power for personal gain. According to investigators, he demanded campaign contributions, a lucrative job for a friend's relative, and even a kickback from the appointed senator's future earnings. One of the most damning recordings captured Blagojevich's chilling words, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a public servant and I'm going to sell the Senate seat. I'm going to make a little money." The FBI's Operation Boardwalk, a multi-year undercover sting, placed agents in the governor's inner circle, posing as wealthy businessmen seeking favors. The tapes, wiretaps, and undercover meetings formed a mountain of evidence that prosecutors would later present to a federal grand jury. In December 2008, the grand jury indicted Blagojevich on 16 counts, including wire fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. The charges painted a picture of a governor who treated public office as a personal marketplace, a claim that reverberated through the halls of Congress and the corridors of the Illinois Capitol. The trial, officially titled United States v. Rod Blagojevich, began on June 13, 2010, in the federal courtroom of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. The prosecution, led by U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald, renowned for his role in the Illinois Operation Greylord corruption investigations, presented a relentless narrative. They played the incriminating recordings, highlighted the text messages in which Blagojevich bragged about his deal, and called witnesses who testified to the governor's overt attempts to monetize the Senate seat. One former aide, who had turned government witness, recounted late-night meetings where Blagojevich demanded a $5,000 cash payment to make the appointment happen. The defense, headed by attorney Michael F. Kennedy, attempted to paint the governor as a victim of political persecution. They argued that the recordings were taken out of context, that the sale language was merely political hyperbole, and that the prosecution's undercover agents had entrapped a public official acting within his rights. Yet the jury, composed of 8 men and 4 women from across Illinois, heard the raw audio of a governor whispering, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a public servant and I'm going to make some money," and the visual of a man who had once promised to fix the state now trying to profit from the very system he was sworn to protect. On June 27, 2010, after a mere 6 days of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict on 17 of the 20 counts. The courtroom erupted, not with applause but with a stunned silence that echoed the gravity of the moment. The nation watched as a former governor, once considered a rising star in the Democratic Party, was led away in handcuffs. The verdict sent shockwaves through Illinois politics, prompting immediate calls for reform and a renewed public demand for transparency. Sentencing took place in December 2011. Judge James B. Zagel, presiding over the case, imposed an 14-year federal prison term, a $150,000 fine, and ordered the forfeiture of $2.5 million in assets. In his remarks, Zagel warned that the public's trust is not a commodity to be bought and sold. Blagojevich's legal team appealed the sentence, arguing that the punishment was excessive, but the appellate courts upheld the conviction and the length of the sentence. The aftermath of the Blagojevich saga reshaped Illinois politics in profound ways. In the immediate wake, the state legislature passed a series of ethics reforms aimed at curbing patronage, stricter disclosure requirements for appointments, enhanced whistleblower protections, and tighter limits on campaign contributions from lobbyists. The scandal also intensified calls for a constitutional amendment to replace the governor's power to appoint Senate vacancies with a special election, a measure that Illinois eventually adopted in 2013. Beyond the legal ramifications, the case left an indelible mark on public perception. Voter turnout in the 2010 midterms surged as Illinoisans, disillusioned by corruption, sought to hold their representatives accountable. The phrase Blagojevich entered the national lexicon, synonymous with political greed, and served as a cautionary tale for politicians nationwide. Rod Blagojevich himself remained a polarizing figure during his imprisonment. In 2018, after serving 8 years of his sentence, President Donald Trump commuted his sentence, citing concerns about the length of the punishment. The commutation reignited debate over the balance between punitive justice and political redemption. Subscribe to The Verdict for more stories like this.